The mafia boss's baby wouldn't stop crying at the diner until the waitress did the unthinkable. The rain hammered against the windows of Rosie's diner like bullets, a sound Dante Moretti knew too well, though tonight he wished he didn't. His son's screams cut through the ambient noise of the late-night establishment, drawing every eye in the place toward the corner booth, where the most feared man in the city sat helplessly cradling a 3-month-old infant who refused to be consoled. "Please, Lorenzo," Dante whispered, his voice stripped of the authority that made grown men tremble. "Please, buddy, I don't know what else to do." The baby's face was red and scrunched, tiny fists flailing as if fighting invisible demons. Dante had tried everything: the bottle, the pacifier, walking, rocking, even humming off-key lullabies his own mother used to sing. Nothing worked. Around them, other diners exchanged uncomfortable glances, some whispering behind raised hands. They didn't recognize him here, not in his worn t-shirt and jeans, his usual armor of expensive suits left behind in favor of desperate anonymity. His bodyguards waited outside in the black SUV, under strict orders to stay invisible. Tonight, Dante wasn't the Don. He was just a father drowning in grief and incompetence, 3 months into single parenthood and failing spectacularly at it. "Sir, is everything all right?" The voice was soft, feminine, concerned rather than judgmental. Dante looked up to find a waitress standing beside his booth, her name tag reading Emma, in cheerful letters that seemed out of place in his dark reality. She was probably in her mid-20s, with light brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and eyes that held a strange combination of exhaustion and kindness. "He won't stop crying," Dante admitted, the confession feeling like pulling shrapnel from a wound. "I've tried everything. I don't know what I'm doing wrong." Emma tilted her head, studying the screaming infant with practiced eyes. "How old?" 3 months. His pediatrician says he's healthy, just colicky, but... Dante's jaw clenched. "Nothing helps. Nothing I do is enough. May I?" Emma held out her arms, and something in her expression made Dante's instincts go quiet. In his world, trust was currency more valuable than gold, yet he found himself handing over his most precious possession to a complete stranger without hesitation. The moment Lorenzo settled into Emma's arms, his screams faltered. She positioned him with the confidence of experience, one hand supporting his head, while the other pressed his tiny body against her chest. She swayed gently, humming a melody that seemed to vibrate through her whole being. "There we go, sweet boy," she murmured. "You're okay. You're safe." Lorenzo's cries reduced to hiccuping sobs, his little fingers grasping at the fabric of Emma's uniform. Dante watched, transfixed, as this stranger accomplished what he'd failed to do for hours. The other patrons returned to their meals, the crisis apparently averted. "You're a natural," Dante said quietly, something twisting in his chest. "Do you have kids?" "Twin boys. They're 2.5 now." Emma's smile was warm but weary. "I remember the colicky phase. Thought I'd lose my mind. How did you survive it?" "You mean besides crying in the bathroom and questioning every life choice?" She laughed softly, still swaying. "Honestly, I just kept trying different things until something worked. Every baby is different. Lorenzo here." She glanced down at the now quiet infant. He just needed to feel a heartbeat that wasn't panicking. The observation hit Dante like a punch to the solar plexus. Of course, Lorenzo could sense his father's stress, his grief, his barely controlled desperation. Children knew. They always knew. "I lost my wife," he heard himself say, the words tasting like ash. 3 months ago. Complications from the delivery. I thought I could... His voice cracked. "I thought I could do this alone. For her." Emma's eyes softened with understanding, not pity. "You're not alone. You have him and he has you. That's what matters." As if to prove her point, Lorenzo's eyes began to drift closed, his small body relaxing completely in her arms. The diner had grown quieter, the late-night crowd thinning out, leaving pools of shadow between the fluorescent lights. "How do you do that?" Dante asked, genuine wonder coloring his tone. Practice and empathy. Emma met his gaze directly, unflinching in a way most people never managed around him. You're trying so hard to be perfect for him that you're forgetting to just be present. He doesn't need perfect. He needs you. Something in Dante's chest cracked open, a fissure in the armor he'd built around his heart since Isabel's death. This waitress, this stranger, saw straight through to the terrified man beneath the reputation, and instead of recoiling, she offered understanding. "Thank you," he said, the words inadequate for what she'd given him. "Really, I don't know how to—" Lorenzo's breathing had evened out completely now, his tiny face peaceful in sleep. Emma smiled down at him with the kind of tenderness Dante recognized from his own mother's face in distant memories. "He's beautiful," she whispered. "And he's lucky to have a father who cares this much." "I don't feel lucky." The admission slipped out before Dante could stop it. "I feel like I'm drowning and taking him down with me." "Then maybe it's time to accept help." Emma carefully transferred the sleeping baby back to Dante's arms, her hands guiding his until Lorenzo was secure against his father's chest. "There's no shame in admitting you can't do everything alone. Being strong doesn't mean never breaking. It means letting yourself break in front of the right people." Their eyes met over Lorenzo's sleeping form, and Dante felt something shift in the air between them. Not attraction exactly, though he couldn't deny she was lovely in an understated way, but recognition. She understood loss. She understood struggle. She understood the weight of being solely responsible for tiny, precious lives. "Emma!" The sharp voice came from the kitchen. "Orders up!" She straightened, the professional mask sliding back into place. "I should get back to work, but if you ever need—" She hesitated, then grabbed a napkin and scribbled something on it. "This is my number. If you're struggling again, call me." Sometimes just having someone to talk to who understands makes all the difference. Dante took the napkin, studying the numbers written in purple pen. In his world, exchanging phone numbers was the beginning of leverage, of obligation, of debt. But Emma's gesture felt different. Genuine kindness without expectation of return. "I'm Dante," he offered, though he suspected she wouldn't recognize the name. Good. For once, he wanted to be just a man, not a title. "Nice to meet you, Dante." Her smile was sunshine breaking through storm clouds. "Take care of that sweet boy. And yourself." She turned to leave, and Dante watched her go, Lorenzo's soft breaths warm against his neck. For the first time in 3 months, something besides grief stirred in his chest, a flutter of something that felt almost like hope. He didn't know then that this moment would change everything, that by accepting her help, he'd pulled Emma Collins into an orbit she was never meant to enter, that his enemies were always watching, always waiting for weakness to exploit. The door to the diner burst open with enough force to make the bell above it scream. A man stormed in, his face flushed with alcohol and anger, eyes scanning the room until they landed on Emma near the kitchen pass-through. "There you are." His voice was too loud, too aggressive. "Thought you could hide from me?" Emma's entire body went rigid, her face draining of color. "Derek, what are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" "You changed the locks, Emma! You changed the goddamn locks!" Derek, presumably her ex, based on the possessive fury in his tone, stalked toward her. "Those are my sons, too. The restraining order says you can't come within 500 feet of me or the boys," Emma said, her voice steady despite the fear Dante could see whitening her knuckles. "You need to leave." "Don't tell me what I need to do." Derek grabbed her arm, and Emma winced. "You're coming home right now, and you're going to fix this mess you made." The entire diner had gone silent. The other waitress backed toward the kitchen. The cook appeared in the pass-through, phone in hand, probably calling the police. And Dante Moretti, cradling his sleeping son, felt ice flood his veins. Not the ice of fear, the ice of controlled violence that had made him a legend in the underworld, the ice that reminded him exactly who and what he was beneath the veneer of struggling single father. He stood smoothly, Lorenzo still secure against his chest in one arm. His free hand settled in his pocket, fingers finding the familiar weight of his phone, and the smaller, more lethal item he never left home without, even on his most civilian nights. "She asked you to leave." Dante's voice cut through the tension like a blade, quiet but absolute. No longer the lost father, but the man whose name made rivals cross streets. Derek spun around, still gripping Emma's arm. "This isn't your business, buddy. Walk away." "See? Here's the thing." Dante took one step closer, and something in his posture, in his eyes, made Derek's bravado falter. "When a man puts his hands on a woman who doesn't want to be touched, especially one who's just shown kindness to my son, it becomes my business." "You threatening me?" Derek tried to puff out his chest, but Dante could see the instinct kicking in, the prey animal recognizing a predator. "I don't make threats." Dante's smile never reached his eyes. "I state facts. Fact 1, you're going to let go of her arm right now. Fact 2, you're going to walk out of this diner and never come back. Fact 3, he took another step, and Derek actually retreated. "If you violate that restraining order again, if you so much as breathe in her direction, you'll learn exactly how creative I can get when protecting people under my care." "Your care? You don't even know her." "I know enough." Dante's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the room. "I know she's a good mother. I know she's had enough of men like you. And I know—" His eyes went flat, emotionless, the expression that preceded disappearances in his world. "That I really don't like repeating myself." Derek's hand dropped from Emma's arm. He looked between them, something clicking in his alcohol-fogged brain. The expensive watch barely visible under Dante's sleeve, the casual confidence of someone who'd never had to bluster because his reputation preceded him. "This isn't over," Derek spat, but he was already backing toward the door. "Yeah," Dante said softly. "It is." Derek fled, the door slamming behind him. Silence stretched for 3 beats before the diner erupted in nervous chatter. The cook disappeared back into the kitchen. The other waitress rushed to Emma's side. But Dante only had eyes for Emma, who was staring at him with a mixture of gratitude, shock, and something else. Recognition, perhaps, that he wasn't who he'd pretended to be. "Thank you," she whispered. "You didn't have to." "Yes," Dante said simply. "I did." Lorenzo stirred against his chest but didn't wake. Dante looked down at his son, then back at Emma, and realized with crystal clarity that nothing would ever be simple again. He'd just put a target on her back, marking her as someone the Moretti Don cared about. His enemies would notice. They always noticed. But as he met Emma's eyes and saw genuine warmth there, despite what she'd just witnessed of his darker nature, Dante found he couldn't regret it. Not yet. Not when she looked at him like he was still human. Emma's hands shook as she cleared tables an hour after Derek's departure, the adrenaline crash hitting her in waves. The other waitress, Maria, kept shooting her concerned glances, while Dante remained in his corner booth, Lorenzo still sleeping peacefully in his arms. He'd ordered coffee he wasn't drinking, clearly waiting for something. Waiting for her, Emma realized. "You should go talk to him," Maria whispered, passing by with a tray of dirty dishes. "That man just went full bodyguard mode for you. At minimum, you owe him a conversation." "I don't even know him." "Honey, he just scared Derek Thompson, who's twice his size, into running like a scared rabbit, with a baby in his arms." Maria raised an eyebrow. "That's either really romantic or really dangerous. Either way, I'd want to know which." Emma's stomach twisted. She'd seen the shift in Dante's demeanor, the way he'd transformed from lost father to something cold and controlled. The look in his eyes hadn't been anger. It had been calculation. The precision of someone who knew exactly how much force was necessary to achieve a desired outcome. Her instincts screamed warnings, but her heart remembered how gently he'd held his son, how vulnerable he'd been before Derek arrived. "My shift ends in 20 minutes, Emma found herself saying. "If he's still here, I'll talk to him." But when her shift ended and she emerged from the back room in her street clothes, worn jeans and a sweater that had seen better days, Dante was standing near the exit, Lorenzo secured in a carrier against his chest. The parking lot beyond the windows was dark and empty, except for the black SUV she now noticed, 2 figures visible in the front seats. Bodyguards? The word escaped before Emma could stop it. Dante had the grace to look slightly sheepish. Security team. I have. A complicated life. Complicated how? Emma crossed her arms, exhaustion making her bolder than usual. Because what I saw tonight wasn't just a concerned stranger helping someone in trouble. That was something else entirely. Can we talk somewhere private? Dante glanced around the near-empty diner. I owe you honesty, but not, he gestured vaguely, not with an audience. Every rational part of Emma screamed to refuse. Strange men asking her to go somewhere private had never ended well. But something in Dante's expression, the way he'd positioned himself between her and the door rather than blocking her exit, made her reconsider. My car, neutral territory. She pointed to the battered Toyota in the lot. You can stand outside if that makes you more comfortable, but I'm not going anywhere alone with someone I just met. Dante nodded, respect flickering across his features. Fair enough. They walked to her car in silence, Lorenzo's soft snores the only sound besides their footsteps. Emma unlocked the driver's side but didn't get in, leaning against the door instead. Dante stood a careful distance away, close enough to talk but far enough that she could bolt if needed. My full name is Dante Moretti, he began, watching her face carefully. Does that mean anything to you? Emma frowned, turning the name over in her mind. Should it? Depends on how much you follow news about organized crime in this city. The bottom dropped out of Emma's stomach. Organized crime, as in I run the Moretti family's operations. His voice was matter-of-fact, neither proud nor ashamed. Have for 5 years since my father retired to Sicily. The newspapers call me various creative titles, but basically, I'm what people mean when they say mafia boss. Emma's brain stuttered to a halt. The gentle father who'd been near tears over his colicky son was a mob boss. The man who'd defended her from Derek ran a criminal empire. You're joking. But she could see in his eyes that he wasn't. That can't be real. You're too young, normal, human. You can't be serious. I wish I was joking. Dante shifted Lorenzo's weight slightly. But I meant what I said in there. I don't make threats. What I told Derek was a statement of fact. If he comes near you again, he'll disappear. Not because I'm a violent man who enjoys hurting people, but because... He paused, choosing words carefully. Because in my world, protecting what's mine is everything. And you helped my son when I was failing him. That puts you under my protection whether you want it or not. I don't want it. Emma's voice rose, then immediately lowered when Lorenzo stirred. I don't want any part of whatever world you're from. I just wanted to help a struggling parent. That doesn't mean I signed up for mob protection. I know. Dante's expression was pained. And if I could take back standing up to Derek, if I could erase what I revealed about myself, I would. But Emma, he met her eyes directly. He'll come back. Men like him always do. And next time, I won't be there to stop him unless you let me help. The police will show up after he's already hurt you and take a statement while he gets released on bail within hours. Dante's tone was blunt. I've seen it play out 1,000 times. Restraining orders are paper shields. They mean nothing to men who think they own their exes. Emma wanted to argue, but she'd lived that reality. She'd called the police on Derek 3 times during their relationship. He'd spent 1 night in jail total and come back angrier each time. What do you want from me? She asked quietly. Because in my experience, powerful men don't offer help without expecting something in return. I want... Dante stopped, seeming to wrestle with himself. Honestly? I don't know. I came to that diner tonight because it was the only place open and Lorenzo wouldn't stop crying. I thought I'd get coffee, fail at parenting some more, and go home to stare at the ceiling until sunrise like I do every night. Instead, I met someone who made me feel human again for the first time since Isabel died. And now I've dragged you into my world without permission, and His voice roughened. I don't know how to fix that. The vulnerability in his admission made Emma's defenses crack slightly. He wasn't wrong. She'd felt the connection too, that strange recognition of shared struggle. But connection didn't change reality. I have twin 2-year-olds, Emma said firmly. Mason and Lucas. They're my entire world. I work 2 jobs to keep our crappy apartment and put food on the table. I can't afford complications. I especially can't afford the kind of complications that come with the mob. I know, and I'm not asking for anything except... Dante hesitated. Let me ensure Derek doesn't bother you anymore. No strings, no obligations, just peace of mind that you're safe. And how exactly do you plan to do that? Emma tried to sound skeptical, but exhaustion was winning. You going to have him killed? God, no. Dante looked genuinely horrified. Emma, I'm not a monster. I don't kill people for personal revenge, but I do have resources, connections. I can make sure he gets the kind of legal attention that actually sticks. A good lawyer, proper documentation, maybe a conversation with his employer about domestic violence charges. All legal, all above board, but effective. It sounded too good to be true, which meant it probably was. Why would you do all that for a waitress you just met? Because you showed my son more compassion in 5 minutes than most people in my life have shown me in years. Dante's jaw tightened. Because you didn't judge me for being lost and scared. Because when you held Lorenzo, I saw my wife's kindness reflected in your eyes, and for one moment, I didn't feel so completely alone in this nightmare. Is that reason enough? Emma's breath caught. She understood grief. Her own parents had died in a car accident when she was 19, leaving her to raise herself through college on scholarships and sheer determination. She understood loneliness, having cut ties with Derek's toxic circle when she finally escaped. She understood the weight of being solely responsible for tiny humans who depended on you for everything. I need to think about this, she finally said. And I need to get home. My babysitter charges overtime after midnight. Of course. Dante pulled out his phone. What's your address? My driver can... I'm not telling a mob boss where I live. Emma couldn't help the slightly hysterical laugh. Are you insane? A smile tugged at Dante's lips, the first genuine one she'd seen. Fair point, but for the record, if I wanted to know where you lived, I'd know within the hour. I'm trying to respect your boundaries by asking. The casual mention of his surveillance capabilities should have terrified Emma. Instead, she found it oddly honest. At least he wasn't pretending to be something he wasn't. I appreciate the honesty, she said dryly, still not telling you. Then at least let me wait until you're in your car with the doors locked. When she opened her mouth to protest, he held up a hand. Please, it's late. The parking lot is dark, and Derek could be waiting nearby. Just let me see you safe. Then I'll leave. Emma wanted to refuse on principle, but he had a point. She nodded curtly, climbing into her car and locking the doors. Through the window, she watched Dante step back, one hand protectively cradling Lorenzo's head, the other raised in farewell. She drove away, watching him in her rearview mirror, a solitary figure in a dark parking lot holding his son, and tried to ignore the way something in her chest ached at the sight. 3 days passed before Emma saw Dante again. 3 days in which she threw herself into her routine, waitressing at the diner, teaching art classes at the community center, wrangling her energetic twins, and trying not to think about dark eyes and a sleeping infant. She failed spectacularly at that last part. Mama! Mama! Lucas tugged on her sleeve while she attempted to prepare dinner, his identical twin Mason already scaling the kitchen counter despite her repeated warnings. Man outside! Emma's heart stopped. She immediately switched off the stove and herded both boys away from the window. What man, sweetie? Big man, with baby. Lucas's face was excited, not scared, which didn't tell Emma much since her sons thought everyone was their friend. She peered carefully through the blinds, and her breath caught. Dante stood on the sidewalk in front of her apartment building, Lorenzo once again in the carrier on his chest. But this time, he wasn't alone. A woman in professional attire stood beside him, carrying what looked like grocery bags. Emma's phone buzzed. An unknown number, but the message made her throat tight. "I know I said I'd respect your space." "I lied. Your address was public record. We brought dinner." No pressure to let us up. But Lorenzo wanted to see the nice lady again. Dante. Against every ounce of common sense, Emma found herself buzzing them into the building. "This is the dumbest thing I've ever done," she muttered, quickly shoving toys into the corner and praying the twins didn't choose this moment to showcase their chaos skills. The knock came too soon. Emma opened the door to find Dante looking impossibly out of place in her shabby hallway. His expensive coat and Italian shoes a jarring contrast to peeling wallpaper and flickering fluorescent lights. "Hi," he said simply. "This is my assistant, Sophia. She's the one who actually knows how to cook. I just carry the baby." Sophia smiled warmly, holding up the bags. "Chicken parmesan, pasta, garlic bread, and a very large tiramisu because Mr. Moretti insisted. May we come in?" "Babies!" Mason had escaped Emma's grip and now stood staring up at Lorenzo with wide eyes. "His friend?" "His name is Lorenzo," Dante said gently, crouching down so Mason could see better. "Would you like to say hi?" Emma watched her usually rambunctious son become suddenly shy, reaching out one chubby finger to touch Lorenzo's hand. The baby's fingers wrapped around Mason's instinctively, and Mason's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Me too!" Lucas pushed forward, and suddenly both twins were cooing over the infant with a gentleness Emma didn't know they possessed. "Well," she said weakly, "I guess you're coming in." Her apartment was tiny. One bedroom that she shared with the twins, a living room barely big enough for a couch and TV, a kitchen where 3 people felt crowded. But Dante and Sophia didn't so much as blink at the cramped space, instead efficiently setting up dinner on her secondhand table, while the boys provided enthusiastic but unhelpful commentary. "This is too much," Emma protested as Sophia laid out enough food for 10 people. "I can't possibly—" "Consider it payment for the other night," Dante said, settling onto her worn couch with Lorenzo. "You helped me. Let me help you. That's all this is." But it wasn't all it was, and they both knew it. Emma could see it in the way Dante's eyes tracked her movements, in the softness of his expression when he watched her twins interact with his son, in the careful way he'd inserted himself into her life. Dinner was surprisingly comfortable. Sophia proved to be funny and kind, sharing stories about Dante's disastrous early attempts at baby care that had both men blushing. The twins ate more than Emma had seen them consume in weeks, chattering nonstop about their day at daycare. Lorenzo woke up hungry, and Dante asked Emma's permission before giving him a bottle, his hands steadier now than that first night. "You're getting better at this," Emma observed, watching him burp Lorenzo with practiced efficiency. "I had a good teacher." His eyes met hers over the baby's head. "And I've been reading so many books. You'd be amazed how much contradictory advice exists about infants." "Every baby is different," Emma said, echoing her own words from that first night. "Lorenzo will teach you what he needs if you listen. Like how Mason needs physical activity before bed or he'll never sleep and Lucas needs quiet story time." Dante's smile was knowing. "I might have noticed a pattern." Emma froze. "How did you—" "I pay attention." His expression was unapologetic. "To what matters." Sophia cleared her throat pointedly, checking her phone. "Mr. Moretti, I hate to interrupt, but you have that conference call in 30 minutes. Dante's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Right. Business." "What kind of business requires calls at 8 p.m.? Emma asked before she could stop herself. "The kind that doesn't respect conventional hours," Dante said dryly. "Unfortunately, my associates in Tokyo don't care about American dinner time." He stood, carefully securing Lorenzo back into the carrier. The twins immediately protested, clinging to his legs with impressive determination. "No go!" Mason wailed. "Baby, stay!" "Baby has to go home and sleep just like you," Dante said gently, crouching to their level. "But maybe—" He glanced at Emma. Maybe we could visit again sometime, if your mama says it's okay. 4 pairs of eyes turned to Emma expectantly. Her son's, Dante's, even little Lorenzo's unfocused baby gaze seemed to plead. She was about to step into something dangerous, something that could shatter the careful safety she'd built for her family. But watching her boys smile wider than they had in months, seeing the hope in Dante's expression, feeling the stirring of something beyond exhaustion and survival in her own chest. "Okay," she heard herself say. "You can visit again." The smile that transformed Dante's face was worth every risk. The flowers arrived at Emma's apartment on a Tuesday morning. 24 black roses in a crystal vase with no card. She stared at them through her peephole, every instinct screaming danger. Black roses in mob culture meant one thing: a death threat. Her phone rang. Dante's number. "Don't touch them," he said without preamble. "I'm sending someone to dispose of them safely. Are the boys with you?" "They're at daycare." Emma's voice shook. "Dante, what's happening?" "Someone in my organization is sending a message." His tone was ice over fury. "A message that you're fair game because they think I've gone soft. I'm handling it." "Handling it how?" But the line was already dead. 3 weeks had passed since that first dinner. 3 weeks of Dante visiting most evenings, of Lorenzo and the twins becoming inseparable, of Emma falling deeper into something she couldn't name. She'd seen more of Dante's world than she'd wanted. The bodyguards who now discreetly watched her apartment building, the expensive car seat he'd installed in her battered Toyota, just in case. The way strangers suddenly gave her respectful nods in her own neighborhood. She was being absorbed into his life whether she wanted it or not. But this, flowers that screamed violence, this was different. Sophia arrived within 20 minutes, accompanied by 2 men in suits who handled the roses like they were explosives. They swept Emma's apartment for other threats while Sophia made tea Emma couldn't drink. "It's Marco Castellano," Sophia said quietly once the men had left. "One of Mr. Moretti's captains. He's been challenging Dante's leadership for months, claiming he's distracted by—" She stopped. "By me." Emma's stomach churned. "By Lorenzo. By grief. By humanity," Sophia corrected gently. "Marco represents the old guard, the men who think showing emotion is weakness. Dante's father led through fear. Dante leads through strategy and loyalty. Some men hate that. So Marco sent me death threats because Dante dared to care about his son? Marco sent threats because he wants to prove Dante can't protect what he cares about. That makes him vulnerable." Sophia's expression hardened. "He's wrong. Dante's never been more dangerous than when protecting his family. I'm not his family." But even as Emma said it, she knew it was a lie. Somewhere between pasta dinners and watching Lorenzo smile for the first time, between teaching Mason gentle touches and listening to Lucas's rambling stories, between stolen moments on her couch discussing everything and nothing, they'd become something that felt like family. And that terrified her more than the roses. That night, Dante didn't visit. Neither did he the next night, or the next. Emma told herself it was relief she felt, not disappointment. Told herself it was better this way, safer, smarter. She was lying in bed on the 4th night, twins finally asleep, when she heard it, the lock on her front door clicking open with professional precision. Emma's hand found the baseball bat she'd kept beside her bed since Derek. She crept into the hallway, heart hammering, to find 3 men in her living room. Not Dante's men. These wore expressions of cold amusement that made her skin crawl. "Emma Collins." The one in front smiled without warmth. "You're coming with us." "Like hell I am." She raised the bat, but another man was already behind her, twisting it from her grip with practiced ease. "Don't make this difficult," the first man said. "Your boys are sleeping so peacefully in there. Would be a shame if they woke up scared." The threat was clear. Emma's entire body went cold. "Don't you dare touch them." "Then come quietly. Mr. Castellano just wants to have a conversation about your relationship with Dante Moretti." "And if I refuse?" The man's smile widened. Then we'll have to make this visit memorable for everyone in the apartment. Your choice, sweetheart. Emma looked toward her son's bedroom door, where Mason and Lucas slept unaware that their world was crumbling. She thought of Dante, of Lorenzo, of the life she'd started to imagine might be possible. Then she thought of her boys waking to violence, to trauma, to the kind of night that would scar them forever. Let me leave them a note, she said. For my neighbor, so someone checks on them in the morning. The man considered, then nodded. Make it quick and believable. Emma scrawled a message to Mrs. Chen next door with shaking hands. Emergency at work. Please watch boys. We'll explain. But under it, in tiny letters she prayed someone would notice, she added, DC help. Dante's initials. A desperate prayer he'd somehow know. They walked her out at gunpoint, hidden under jackets, bundled her into an SUV, and drove toward the waterfront warehouses where bad things happened in this city. Emma's mind raced through options: fight, run, scream. But with a gun pressed to her ribs and her son's safety hanging in the balance, she could only comply and pray Dante was as dangerous as everyone claimed. Meanwhile, across the city, Dante sat in his study going through security footage for the 4th time, searching for any sign of Marco's next move. Lorenzo slept in a bassinet beside his desk, peaceful and unaware that his father was barely holding together. Sophia burst in without knocking. Sir, we have a problem. What kind of problem? Dante didn't look up from the screens. Mrs. Chen from Emma's building just called your emergency line. She found a note and... Sophia's voice cracked. Emma's gone. The twins are alone. And there are signs of forced entry. The world stopped. Dante's hands froze on the keyboard. For 3 seconds, an eternity, he couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but feel the ice water of absolute terror flood his veins. Then the ice turned to fire. Show me the note. His voice was barely human. Sophia handed him her phone. The message was professional, calm, exactly what Emma would write for a normal emergency. But those 2 letters at the bottom, DC, hit him like a bullet. She'd been taken, and she'd used her last seconds of freedom to tell him. Marco. The name came out like a death sentence. He has her. We don't know that for certain. I know it. Dante was on his feet, the control he'd maintained for weeks shattering like glass. He sent the roses. Now he's taken her. He wants me to come after her. It's a trap. Then we call the police. Let them... And she dies while they process warrants. Dante's jaw clenched hard enough to crack teeth. No, we do this my way. Call everyone. Every soldier, every associate, everyone who owes me a favor. I want Marco's location within the hour. Sir, if you go after her personally, you're playing into his hands. I don't care. Dante looked at Sophia, and she stepped back from what she saw in his eyes. He touched what's mine. He threatened her children. There's no version of this where he survives the night. And if he's expecting that, if he wants you emotional and reckless, then he'll get exactly what he wants. Dante's smile was terrible. Me at my absolute worst. Make the calls, Sophia, and get Mrs. Chen and the twins to the safe house. I want them protected. What about Lorenzo? Dante looked at his sleeping son, something breaking in his chest. If he went after Emma, he might not come back. Lorenzo might lose both parents before his first birthday. But if he didn't go, if he let Marco win through fear of consequences, take him to the safe house too. If something happens to me, his voice roughened. You know what to do. Sophia's eyes glistened. It won't come to that. It might. Marco's been planning this for months. He knows me, knows how I think, knows I'll trade everything for her. Dante's hands clenched into fists. But he doesn't know how far I'll go, how many rules I'll break, how completely I'll destroy him for touching her. The calls went out. Within 40 minutes, Dante had Marco's location, an abandoned warehouse on Pier 19, predictable and deliberate. A stage set for confrontation. Dante's second-in-command, Vincent, tried one last time. "Let us go in first. Clear the building. Extract her safely before you anywhere near that place. He'll kill her the moment he realizes I'm not coming personally." Dante checked his gun, loaded, safety off, ready. "This has to be me. Alone. That's suicide. Maybe." Dante's voice was eerily calm now, the fury crystallized into cold purpose. "But I'd rather die trying to save her than live knowing I let fear stop me. She saved my son when I was drowning. She showed me I could still feel something besides grief. I'm not abandoning her now." He left orders for the organization if he didn't return. Vincent in charge, Lorenzo's trust fund secured, Emma and her sons protected for life. Then he drove toward the warehouse alone, unarmed except for one gun, completely aware he was walking into certain trap. He didn't care, because somewhere in that building, Emma was scared and alone, and every second he wasted was another second she suffered. The warehouse loomed ahead, dark except for one lit window on the second floor. Dante parked in clear view, no stealth, no strategy, just raw declaration of presence. He was here, and hell was coming with him. The warehouse smelled of rust, old fish, and something acrid Emma couldn't identify. They'd tied her to a chair in what looked like an old office. Industrial furniture, broken windows, water damage staining the walls. Marco Castellano sat across from her, gun resting casually on his knee, 3 other men stationed around the room. "Comfortable?" Marco asked, voice dripping false courtesy. "Do you really think Dante will trade himself for me?" Emma kept her voice steady despite the terror clawing at her throat. "We've known each other less than a month. That's all it takes, apparently, for the great Dante Moretti to go soft." Marco leaned forward. "Do you know what happened to his wife? Sweet, beautiful Isabel?" Emma's stomach twisted. "Complications from childbirth. He told me." "Is that what he told you?" Marco's smile was cruel. "How convenient. Tell me, did he mention that someone tampered with her medication at the hospital? That what should have been a routine delivery turned fatal because of a carefully planned assassination?" The air left Emma's lungs. "You're lying." "Am I? Why do you think Dante barely leaves his house anymore? Why he's so obsessed with protection, with control, with keeping Lorenzo hidden from the world?" Marco's eyes glinted. "Because he knows someone in his own organization killed his wife. He just hasn't figured out who. And you're confessing this to me because you won't live long enough to tell him." Marco stood, pacing like a predator. "But I want you to understand what's about to happen. When Dante arrives, and he will arrive, he's predictable that way. I'm going to give him a choice. His life for yours. And being the noble idiot he's become, he'll take the deal. He won't fall for that. He's smarter than you think." "Oh, I'm counting on his intelligence." Marco's voice hardened. "I'm counting on him realizing that if he doesn't comply, I'll put a bullet in your head, then in those adorable twin boys of yours, then in his son. I'll take everything he loves and make him watch it die before I kill him too." Emma's blood turned to ice. The casual way Marco threatened her children, Lorenzo, Dante. This man was beyond reason, beyond mercy. "You won't get away with this," she said, hating how her voice shook. "Dante's organization will follow strength, always has." Marco checked his watch. "And when I demonstrate that Dante Moretti couldn't even protect one waitress and her brats, they'll see where the real power lies." Footsteps echoed from below. Heavy, unhurried, deliberate. Marco's men tensed, guns raised toward the door. "Right on time," Marco murmured. "Let's give him a proper welcome, shall we?" The door burst open, and Dante stood framed in the entrance, gun raised but not firing. His eyes found Emma immediately, scanning her for injuries, and the relief that flashed across his face nearly broke her. "Let her go, Marco." Dante's voice was dead calm. "This is between us." "Is it?" Marco pressed his gun to Emma's temple, and she felt the cold metal bite into her skin. "Because from where I'm standing, this is about so much more. about weakness, about the fact that you care more about playing house with a waitress than running the family. I care about not becoming the monster our fathers were. Dante took one careful step into the room. I care about building something that doesn't require children to die for profit. Poetic? Is that what Isabel believed too? Marco's smile was vicious. Did she die thinking you'd change things? Or did she die knowing I'd already won? The words hung in the air like poison. Emma watched Dante's expression shift. Shock, then understanding, then fury so absolute it was terrifying. You, Dante breathed. You killed Isabel. I removed an obstacle. Marco shrugged. She was making you weak, filling your head with ideas about legitimate business and reform. The family needs a leader who understands power, not morality. You murdered my wife because she made me human. Dante's gun hand shook, but his aim never wavered. You killed the mother of my child, and now you threaten— His eyes found Emma's. Now you threaten the only person who's helped me survive that loss. How touching. Drop the gun, Dante, or I'll make this slow and painful for her. For a heartbeat, Emma thought Dante might refuse. Might choose strategy over her life, might be cold enough to calculate odds and make the ruthless choice. Then he lowered his gun and set it on the floor. Good dog. Marco's voice dripped contempt. Now kick it away, slowly. Dante complied, and Emma's heart shattered. He was giving up. Trading everything, his life, his power, his son's future, for her. A woman he'd known less than a month. Marco, please, Emma heard herself say. You've won. You have Dante. You have your proof of his weakness. Let me go. I'm no threat to you. You're right. You're not a threat. Marco's gun shifted away from her head. You're a message. And messages only work if they're delivered dramatically. He aimed at Dante instead. Kneel. Dante met Emma's eyes as he slowly lowered himself to his knees. In that gaze, she saw everything he couldn't say. Regret, affection, apology for dragging her into his world. She saw a man who'd been broken by loss and had somehow found the strength to care again, only to lose it all. She saw the moment he accepted death, and something in Emma snapped. She'd spent her entire adult life being underestimated. Derek had seen a meek girlfriend to control. Her ex-employers had seen cheap labor. Even Dante, in his way, had seen someone to protect rather than someone with agency. They all forgot that she was a mother, that she'd survived poverty, abuse, loss, and single parenthood through sheer determination. That when her children's safety was threatened, she became someone else entirely. The rope binding her wrists had been loosening for the past 10 minutes. Marco's men had been sloppy, overconfident. Emma had been working it systematically while playing terrified victim, waiting for the right moment. This was the right moment. She wrenched her hands free and lunged sideways out of the chair in the same motion. Marco's gun fired, but she was already moving, the bullet missing her by inches and slamming into the wall. She grabbed the broken chair leg she'd noticed earlier and swung it like a bat at Marco's knee. The crack was sickeningly satisfying. Marco howled, stumbling, his gun hand wavering. Dante moved like lightning, diving for his own weapon, while Emma tackled Marco fully to the ground. She'd spent 2 years in kickboxing classes at the community center, the one thing she'd done solely for herself, and muscle memory took over. Knee to the gut, elbow to the face, fingers clawing for the gun still in Marco's grip. Dante reached them, but Marco's men were already firing. The room erupted in chaos. Gunshots, breaking glass, shouted orders. Dante returned fire with surgical precision while covering Emma's body with his own. The two of them pressed behind the overturned desk that served as minimal cover. You're insane, Dante hissed in her ear. Brilliant and insane. I've had enough of men threatening my family. Emma's hands shook, but her voice was steel. Where's your backup? Outside, waiting for my signal. Dante fired twice more. I told them not to come in unless— A whistle. Sharp, distinctive. Vincent's voice echoed from below. We're coming up, boss. Marco, bleeding from his broken nose and cradling his shattered knee, laughed bitterly. You think you've won? I think, Dante said coldly, pressing his gun to Marco's forehead, that you confessed to murdering my wife, to threatening children, to treason against the family. He glanced at Emma. We're recording this, by the way. Have been since I walked in. Voice-activated camera in my watch. Marco's face drained of color. I learned from the best. My father always said, if your enemy expects emotion, give them calculation. If they expect calculation, Dante's smile was terrible. Give them both. Vincent and 15 armed men flooded the room, securing Marco's crew within seconds. The warehouse that had been Marco's trap became his cage. But Dante only had eyes for Emma. Are you hurt? His hands ran over her face, her arms, checking for injuries with a gentleness that contrasted sharply with the violence of seconds before. I'm fine. Scared, but fine. Emma's adrenaline was crashing, leaving her shaky and overwhelmed. Dante, what he said about Isabel. I know. I've suspected for months but couldn't prove it. Pain flickered across Dante's expression. I'm sorry you had to hear it that way. Sorry you're in this mess at all. I'm sorry you lost her. Both times, first to death, then to knowing it was murder. Emma touched his face, feeling the stubble rough against her palm. What happens now? Dante looked at Marco, bloodied and restrained, then back at Emma. Now I make a choice. The old way. Handle this internally, permanently, or the new way. The way Isabel would have wanted. Which is? Police. Evidence. Justice through the system. He smiled without humor. I'm done with the old way. It took everything from me. I won't let it take you too. Emma's eyes burned. You're really going to the police? You? A mob boss? Former mob boss? Dante's voice was quiet but certain. I'm walking away, Emma, from all of it. The organization, the power, the empire. I'll cooperate with the authorities regarding Marco's confession and take whatever consequences come. But I'm done living in a world where the people I love die for my sins. Dante, Emma couldn't believe what she was hearing. You can't just walk away. The organization won't let you. There are rules. Then I'll break them. He pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. You and Lorenzo and your boys. You're my family now. The only empire I care about is the one where we all wake up safe in the morning. Everything else is negotiable. That's beautiful and terrifying. Emma's voice broke. But you know they won't just let you go. I know. Dante's arms tightened around her. Which is why we fight. Together. You showed me tonight that you're not some damsel to protect. You're a warrior in your own right. So we fight together, and we build something new from the ashes of everything I've destroyed. In the distance, sirens wailed. The police, finally, summoned by Vincent's anonymous call. The old life was ending. The new one remained uncertain, dangerous, possibly doomed. But as Emma looked into Dante's eyes and saw not a mob boss, but simply a man who'd lost everything and chosen love anyway, she thought maybe, just maybe, they had a chance. Together, she whispered, and sealed it with a kiss that tasted like hope and gunpowder. The next 3 months were a special kind of hell. Dante cooperated fully with federal prosecutors, providing evidence that brought down half the organized crime families in the city. In exchange, he received immunity for past crimes, conditional on his continued testimony and complete severance from his organization. The Moretti family empire crumbled in controlled demolition, assets seized, members arrested or scattered. Vincent took over what remained, promised to go legitimate, and kept his word. But Dante's organization wasn't the only threat. The council, that shadowy group of 5 families that controlled the city's underworld, didn't believe in retirement. They believed in blood oaths and permanent commitments. When word spread that Dante Moretti was cooperating with federal agents, the council convened to discuss his fate. The death sentence was unanimous. Emma first learned about it from Sophia, who'd remained loyal even after Dante dissolved his empire. They sat in the safe house living room, a nondescript suburban home where Emma, Dante, and the children had been living under federal protection, while the kids played in the next room. "There's a contract on his life," Sophia said bluntly. $5 million to whoever delivers proof of his death. Professional hitters from 3 states have already made attempts. The marshals are recommending witness protection, new identities, relocation, complete separation from everything you've ever known. Emma's hands trembled. For how long? Forever. That's how witness protection works. The boys are 2 years old. They barely understand why we moved here, why they can't see their friends. How do I explain that their entire lives just vanished? Emma's voice broke. How does Dante explain to Lorenzo that his father used to be someone else entirely? The alternative is that Lorenzo grows up without a father at all. Sophia's tone was gentle but firm. The council doesn't bluff. If Dante stays visible, he dies. Then they'll come for you and the children to make a statement. Witness protection is the only option. Dante appeared in the doorway, Lorenzo balanced on his hip. He'd lost weight over the past months, stress carving lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. But his gaze, when it landed on Emma, held the same warmth that had made her fall in love with him somewhere between danger and domesticity. "I'm not taking witness protection," he said quietly. "I'm ending this." Sophia stood. "Sir, with respect, you can't end the council. They've existed for 70 years. They're an institution. Institutions fall when they're exposed to daylight." Dante set Lorenzo down to play with the twins. "I've spent 3 months turning evidence over to the feds. Every financial record, every connection, every dirty secret the council thought was buried. Tomorrow, it all goes public." Simultaneously, the FBI raids every council safe house, every front business, every property their families own. "We're not hiding anymore. We're burning the entire thing down." Emma's breath caught. That's declaring war on the most powerful criminal organization in the region." "No, it's checkmate." Dante's smile was grim. "I learned something from Marco. Strength isn't about who's most violent. It's about who controls the narrative. By tomorrow night, the council will be too busy defending themselves from federal charges to worry about one man who walked away. And if you're wrong?" Emma stood, crossing to him. "If they come anyway? Then I make sure you and the children are somewhere they can't reach." He cupped her face in his hands. "I made you a promise, Emma. I promised to build a life where we could all wake up safe. I'm keeping that promise, whatever it takes. Even if it costs you your life, especially then." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "But I don't plan on dying. I plan on winning, permanently." The next day, every major news outlet in the country simultaneously published exposés on the council's operations, meticulously documented evidence of money laundering, murder, corruption at every level of government. The feds executed simultaneous raids on 70 locations. By nightfall, 3 of the 5 council heads were in custody. The remaining 2 had fled the country. The underworld that had ruled the city for generations shattered in less than 24 hours. But victory came with costs. Vincent appeared at the safe house 2 days later, his expression grim. "The council's remnants are scattered but not destroyed. They're offering $10 million now, double the original contract for your head. The organization voted to honor our treaty with you, but..." He hesitated. "But I can't control freelancers. Word is that Derek Thompson made contact with what's left of Marco's old crew." Emma's blood turned to ice. "Derek? He's been looking for leverage against you since the restraining order stuck. Apparently, he figured out your connection to Dante and sees an opportunity. He's offering to deliver information on your location in exchange for enough money to disappear after." "That pathetic..." Emma bit off the curse, aware of little ears in the next room. "We need to deal with him. Permanently. Legally," Dante corrected, though his expression suggested he was thinking similar violent thoughts. "Sophia, pull every record we have on Derek Thompson. I want charges filed by end of day. Stalking, harassment, violation of the restraining order, conspiracy to commit murder. Federal prosecutors owe me favors. Let's collect. But Emma's mind was racing ahead. Derek doesn't know where we are. The safe house location is classified. So how does he plan to... Realization hit her. Mrs. Chen. He'll go after Mrs. Chen. She's the only one outside the protection program who knows how to contact us. Dante was already on the phone, barking orders to the federal agents assigned to their case. Within the hour, Mrs. Chen was in protective custody, furious but safe. Derek was picked up attempting to break into her apartment, arrested with enough evidence to put him away for years. The Derek problem was solved. But the council's contract remained active, a permanent shadow over their lives. 1 month later, Emma stood in a federal courtroom watching Dante testify against the last remaining council member. His voice was steady as he detailed decades of crimes, his own involvement included. He didn't flinch from his past, didn't make excuses, simply told the truth with brutal honesty. The jury convicted in 4 hours. As they left the courthouse, a reporter shoved a microphone in Dante's face. "Mr. Moretti, you've destroyed the most powerful criminal organization in the state. What does that make you?" Dante looked at Emma, at Lorenzo sleeping in his carrier, at Mason and Lucas holding Emma's hands. His expression softened. "A father," he said simply. "That's all I want to be now, just a father." The reporters ate it up. The redemption story, the reformed criminal, the love that changed everything. Within days, Dante's face was on every magazine cover, his story optioned for a movie, his testimony praised as the most comprehensive takedown of organized crime in modern history. And slowly, as months passed without attempts on his life, the contract faded into legend. The council was destroyed. Its remnants couldn't fund bounties when they were fighting prison sentences. The old world died, and in its ashes, a new life took root.